What if I told you that some of the richest black pastors preaching about faith and humility were secretly building empires of fame and fortune? While millions believed their words came straight from God, behind the pulpit was a different story, filled with lies, greed, and manipulation. These were not just spiritual leaders. They were master performers who turned religion into a business and faith into a brand. From private jets to million-dollar mansions, their blessings came with a hidden price. Get ready, because these are 30 rich black pastors who lied about God for fame. 30. Bishop Bernard Jordan, Bishop. Bernard Jordan built a fortune by turning faith into a luxury service. His prophecies were sold like designer blessings. Each message came with a price tag. Crowds believed he was heaven's messenger, yet behind the polished suits and gold jewelry stood a man running a multi-million-dollar spiritual business. He preached generosity, but lived surrounded by opulence, proving that, for some, religion had become a brand instead of a calling. 29. Pastor Chris Oyakhilome. Pastor Chris Oyakhilome rose to fame, preaching that faith brings wealth, and he's lived every word of it. His private jets, mansions, and luxury cars tell a story of prosperity that mirrors his sermons. But whispers grew louder about manipulated miracles and exaggerated testimonies. Still, his followers kept giving, hoping to touch the same riches he flaunted. To many, he blurred the sacred line between spreading the gospel and selling it. 28. Prophet T.B. Joshua. Prophet T.B. Joshua was once hailed as a miracle worker, drawing massive crowds from every corner of the world. Behind the smiling sermons and televised healings, dark stories began to surface. Former followers spoke of manipulation, hidden abuse, and strict control disguised as faith. Even after his death, investigations revealed layers of deceit buried beneath his empire. The man once worshipped as a holy prophet left behind a legacy tangled in lies and power. 27. Prophet Hubert Angel. Prophet Hubert Angel's rise was wrapped in wealth, designer suits, and flashy cars. Calling himself a servant of God, he built a global ministry and flaunted his luxury lifestyle as proof of divine favor. Yet leaked recordings and media reports exposed money laundering and fake miracles crafted for fame. His so-called prophecies became performances, each one adding another zero to his fortune. His empire of faith slowly revealed itself as a network of deception. 26. Bishop David Oyedepo. Bishop David Oyedepo built a spiritual kingdom worth millions, preaching sacrifice while living like royalty. His church became one of Africa's largest, yet his message of faith often revolved around giving more to receive blessings. Critics say his gospel of prosperity benefits him far more than his congregation. From private jets to palatial estates, his success story mirrored a corporate tycoon rather than a humble servant. His sermons spoke of heaven, but his life glimmered with gold. 25. Pastor Shepherd Bushiri. Pastor Shepherd Bushiri claimed to perform miracles and promised prosperity to all who believed. Crowds adored him, yet behind the scenes, financial crimes and fraud charges painted a different picture. He escaped from South Africa after being accused of stealing millions through fake investments. Still, his followers defended him fiercely, calling it persecution. With mansions, luxury cars, and private jets, Bushiri became a symbol of how easily holiness can be dressed in designer clothing. 24. Pastor Alf Lukau. Pastor Alf Lukau shocked the world with a viral video where he seemingly brought a dead man back to life. The spectacle made headlines, but it didn't take long for the truth to surface. The resurrection was staged. The miracle turned into one of the biggest embarrassments in modern ministry. Yet, despite the exposure, Lukau continued preaching prosperity, showing how spectacle and money had replaced sincerity in his brand of faith. 23. Prophetess Kimberly Daniels. Prophetess Kimberly Daniels turned her pulpit into a political stage. Blending religion with political ambition, she gained influence by declaring her campaigns as divine missions. Her sermons mixed faith with fear, promising spiritual favor to her loyal supporters. Critics accused her of manipulating beliefs for personal gain, yet she continued climbing the ranks of influence. Her story reflected how easily holy words can be twisted into tools for fame and control. 22. Bishop George Bloomer. Bishop George Bloomer became a familiar face on Christian television, mastering the art of turning desperation into donations. With emotional appeals and dramatic sermons, he convinced believers that their financial seeds would unlock miracles. His broadcasts blended guilt, hope, and persuasion so smoothly that thousands gave their last savings. Behind the cameras, his lavish lifestyle exposed the true reward of his ministry. The gospel he sold was less about God's power and more about profit. 21. Prophet Brian Carn. Prophet Brian Carn built fame through bold prophecies, claiming divine messages straight from heaven. Crowds believed every word until investigators found that many of his predictions were copied from online sources. Still, he defended himself with flair, performing dramatic healing sessions and fiery sermons. His charisma and confidence kept followers close, even as truth faded behind the stage lights. In the end, his ministry became known for performance rather than purity. 20. Pastor E. Dewey Smith. Pastor E. Dewey Smith often criticized materialism from the pulpit, urging people to seek spiritual wealth instead of worldly gain. Yet his own lifestyle told another story: expensive suits, luxury cars, and grand homes. His message of humility clashed with the comfort surrounding him. Many saw his contradictions as proof of a new kind of preacher, one who condemned prosperity yet quietly lived by it. His sermons inspired devotion, but his reality whispered a different truth. 19. Bishop Marvin Sapp. Bishop Marvin Sapp blended ministry with music, rising as both preacher and chart-topping gospel artist. His powerful voice moved millions, but his success also brought immense wealth and fame. Critics accused him of commercializing faith, using God's message as a business venture. Despite the whispers, Sapp's popularity never faded. He turned the pulpit into a stage and gospel into an industry, showing how easily holy praise can transform into polished profit. 18. Carlton Pearson. Carlton Pearson once stood among the most beloved preachers in America, filling arenas with his electrifying sermons. But when he changed his message, rejecting the traditional idea of hell, everything collapsed. His peers turned against him, calling him a false teacher. The fame he built on faith vanished almost overnight. Pearson's story became a haunting example of how fame and religion can vanish as quickly as it rises when belief turns against the mainstream. 17. Jesse Duplantis. Jesse Duplantis shocked believers when he claimed God told him to buy a private jet. He insisted it was for ministry, not luxury, yet critics saw another pastor justifying excess through Scripture. His massive mansion, designer lifestyle, and bold defense of wealth made him one of the loudest voices in prosperity preaching. Every sermon about blessing seemed to point back to his own comfort. His version of faith looked more like financial ambition. 16. Benny Hinn. Benny Hinn became a worldwide phenomenon, waving his hand and watching crowds collapse in awe. His televised crusades promised healing and blessings to anyone who gave generously. Behind the miracles, millions of dollars flowed into his ministry as stories of staged healings began to surface. Private jets, oceanfront mansions, and luxury cars surrounded the man who preached humility. His showmanship made him a spiritual celebrity, but his wealth told a different story about divine purpose. 15. Al Sharpton. Al Sharpton started as a fiery preacher fighting for justice, commanding respect in churches and streets alike. Over time, his sermons evolved into speeches, and his pulpit became a political stage. Critics accused him of using faith as a ladder to power, while trading scripture for spotlight. Lavish appearances, endorsements, and public controversies followed. Though his influence remained undeniable, his ministry's message blurred between activism, ambition, and the endless pursuit of recognition. 14. Bishop Lamer Whitehead. Bishop Lamer Whitehead made headlines for his bold sermons and bolder fashion sense. Known for designer suits and diamond jewelry, he claimed his luxury represented God's blessings. But when he was robbed during a live-stream service, his wealth and image drew national attention. Soon after, allegations of fraud and deception surfaced, revealing a life built more on style than spirit. The man who once symbolized success became the face of greed in the pulpit. 13. David E. Taylor. David E. Taylor called himself God's chosen messenger, claiming to meet Jesus face to face. His ministry became a spectacle of grand promises and luxurious living. Former members accused him of using fear and manipulation to gain loyalty and donations. His lavish mansion, exotic cars, and custom suits became symbols of hypocrisy. Behind the staged visions and public worship stood a man who turned divine encounters into a profitable performance for fame and fortune. 12. Reverend Ike. Reverend Ike was decades ahead of modern prosperity pastors, proudly preaching that the lack of money is the root of all evil. His sermons mixed psychology with scripture, promising wealth through positive thinking. Crowds adored his message, but it also made him one of the richest preachers in America. Gold rings, silk robes, and Rolls-Royces became his trademarks. Reverend Ike turned a religion into a luxury brand long before others dared to follow. 11. Pastor John Gray. Pastor John Gray once stood beside giants like Joel Osteen, preaching love, loyalty, and faithfulness. But as his fame grew, scandals followed. Extravagant spending, affairs, and leaked messages shattered his image of moral perfection. He gifted his wife luxury cars and mansions while urging followers to live modestly. Each public apology only deepened the divide between his message and his actions. His story became a cautionary tale about temptation in the spotlight. 10. Bishop T.K. Jakes, Jr. Born into the shadow of his father, T.K. Jakes, Jr. inherited influence, wealth, and expectations. Instead of walking a humble path, he embraced celebrity culture, building a ministry that looked more like a brand. Designer suits, luxury travel, and online fame became part of his identity. Followers admired his charisma, but questioned his sincerity. The young preacher's rise showed how easily spiritual leadership can be shaped by image rather than inspiration. 9. Bishop Noel Jones. Bishop Noel Jones captivated audiences with his charm, charisma, and powerful voice. His sermons preached modesty and humility, yet his lifestyle spoke of excess. Surrounded by celebrities and living in luxury, he became more of a star than a shepherd. His romantic scandals and extravagant image often overshadowed his message of salvation. As his fame grew, so did the whispers about his true motives. The pulpit became his stage, and fame his ultimate congregation. 8. Bishop Clarence McClendon. Bishop Clarence McClendon built his reputation on fiery preaching and promises of divine prosperity. Yet his multi-million-dollar homes, designer suits, and Hollywood connections raised eyebrows. Once exposed for lavish spending and questionable donations, his name became a symbol of spiritual excess. While preaching generosity, he lived as if the gospel were a gateway to glamour. His rise showed how easily wealth and worship can blend when fame hides behind faith's curtain. 7. Juanita Bynum. Juanita Bynum turned heartbreak into ministry, captivating millions with emotional sermons about strength and survival. As her fame grew, so did her prices, charging thousands for conferences and selling anointed products. Her honesty about past mistakes drew sympathy, yet critics saw a woman who commercialized pain for profit. When financial scandals and lawsuits emerged, the prophetess who once preached purity became a headline for greed. Her story blurred the line between calling and cash. 6. Paula White. Paula White's journey from televangelist to presidential advisor showed the merging of power, politics, and religion. Her sermons promised divine success, and her lifestyle mirrored it with mansions, luxury cars, and million-dollar earnings. Preaching prosperity while standing beside politicians, she became a public symbol of influence cloaked in faith. Many admired her confidence, while others saw manipulation disguised as ministry. Her version of Christianity seemed built on power, image, and personal gain. 5. Jamal Bryant. Jamal Bryant's charisma made him one of the most talked-about preachers in America. He delivered sermons about morality and loyalty, but lived a life filled with controversy. Affairs, scandals, and public drama followed him from church to church. Still, his bold confidence and sharp words kept crowds returning. His empire grew, mixing religion with entertainment. To his critics, Bryant's pulpit became more of a stage for performance than a place for prayer. 4. Joel Peebles. Joel Peebles inherited his late mother's vast church ministry, but instead of peace, he found conflict. Legal battles, family feuds, and accusations of greed surrounded his leadership. What began as a legacy of faith turned into a fight for power and control. While followers searched for spiritual truth, the headlines focused on money and lawsuits. Peebles' story revealed how even sacred inheritance can crumble when fortune overshadows faith. 3. T.D. Jakes T.D. Jakes built an empire that stretched far beyond the church walls. His thunderous voice and passionate sermons transformed him into a household name. But as his fame expanded into movies, books, and business ventures, critics began to wonder where the ministry ended and marketing began. With best-selling films, luxury living, and corporate deals, his message of empowerment became intertwined with celebrity. Many viewed him as a spiritual powerhouse, yet others saw a man who turned faith into enterprise. His ability to merge religion with entertainment changed the face of modern preaching, creating a blueprint for pastors who desired fame as much as followers. From small-town preacher to global mogul, T.D. Jakes stood as a symbol of success, proof that in the world of televangelism, charisma could become currency, and a sermon could sell like a blockbuster hit. 2. Bishop Eddie Long. Bishop Eddie Long's rise was legendary. With his sharp suits, powerful speeches, and immense following, he built one of the largest black megachurches in America. To his congregation, he was a hero, God's chosen leader. But behind the grand stages and million-dollar sermons, a darker truth began to surface. Allegations of sexual misconduct and abuse destroyed the image he had spent decades crafting. His denial only deepened the divide within his church, as followers struggled to reconcile the man they worshipped with the accusations before them. Lavish lifestyles, private jets, and legal battles followed. When he passed away, his legacy remained divided, part inspiration, part warning. Bishop Long's downfall exposed the dangerous blend of unchecked power, blind faith, and fame that can turn preachers into kings and the pulpit into a palace of secrets. 1. Creflo Dollar. Creflo Dollar turned prosperity preaching into a global business. His message was simple: faith brings wealth, and giving ensures blessings. Thousands of followers poured their savings into his ministry, believing their generosity would unlock heavenly favor. But when he asked for a $65 million private jet, the world stopped and stared. His justification that God wanted him to travel in style for ministry sparked outrage. Still, he stood firm, continuing to preach that riches were proof of righteousness. His sprawling mansion, luxury cars, and million-dollar lifestyle reflected the gospel he sold. To many, he symbolized everything wrong with modern faith, the merging of greed and God. Yet despite criticism, his empire never fell. His story showed how charisma, confidence, and a promise of divine wealth could transform one preacher into one of the richest men ever to stand behind a pulpit. So after seeing how these pastors twisted faith for fame, you've got to wonder, how many more are still out there doing the same thing right now? When religion turns into a show, who's really being worshipped, God or the man behind the mic? If you want more deep dives that expose the truth behind power, money, and fame, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on all notifications. Because the next story might just reveal another secret the church never wanted you to hear.